As we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family today, in the Christmas season, it's always the Sunday between Christmas and New Year's, we meditate on this fact that God became man. Jesus is God who came into this world. And how did he come into this world? Not just by himself, but as part of a family. The Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And that tells us that also we are called to be holy, and it is by means of our family that we can do so. For husbands and wives, the way to become holy is through your spouse. God comes to you by means of your husband or wife. In the book of Leviticus, it says, "Be holy as the Lord your God is holy." Everyone is called to holiness, to be like God. And we heard back on December 8th, the celebration of the Immaculate Conception, how sin came into the world. How Adam and Eve said to God, "I don't want to do your will, I want to do my will." In a sense, I know better than God about what is right and wrong, of what is good and evil. And so that's the origin of sin. Jesus comes to overturn sin by saying, "Father, let this cup pass me by, yet not my will, but your will be done." By being obedient to the Father. He says, "I came not to do my own will, but the will of the one who sent me." Now, no one likes to be told what to do, but there is our salvation. Jesus shows us the way by becoming humble and obedient. That means listening to the voice of God the Father as he speaks to us. Why would we want to be obedient to God? Because God is love. And so what he's asking of us is for our greatest good, because he loves us. And so the family is called in this same way to practice this virtue of obedience. Beginning with children, it says in St. Paul, "Children, obey your parents, just as Jesus obeyed Mary and Joseph." What a mystery that we think about. Jesus, though he was God, was obedient to what Mary and Joseph told him to do. And most of us want to get out of the house by the time we're 18 to be on our own. Jesus stayed with his family until he was 30. He was obedient to them. Though he was God, obviously he knew everything, but yet he obeyed what Mary and Joseph told him to do. And so children, in being obedient to their parents, are recognizing in faith what my parents are asking me to do is really what God is asking me to do, to be obedient to that. Obviously, we're called to obey except in sin. We don't have to obey when it's something that is sinful. And also, even within marriage, St. Paul says, "Husbands and wives, be subordinate to one another out of reverence for Christ." Wives, be subordinate to your husbands as to the Lord. He's not talking about domination or controlling within marriage, but he's talking about recognizing the grace of God that is present through the other. When I was ordained, I made a promise of obedience to my bishop, who said, "Do you promise obedience and respect to me and my successors?" And I said, "I do." Now, we might think that's foolish to be obedient to some other man. He doesn't always know what the right thing is. On the natural level, that may be true. But on the supernatural level, it's saying God is working through my bishop. And when he is asking me to do something as the bishop, I have to stop and say, what is the Lord asking me? That I want to be obedient to God, to give up my own will and to follow God's will. And so the same is true in marriage. The temptation might be to say, my husband doesn't know always what the right thing is. But in supernatural level of faith, to say, maybe it's the Lord who is speaking to me through him, and I want to be obedient to the Lord. And the same thing, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. How did Jesus love the church? He gave his life for his bride. He died on the cross for her. If we look through the Gospels, there's no moment where Jesus said, I don't have time for you right now, I'm busy, or I want to take a nap. He didn't assert his own will. He did the will of his bride. He gave of himself. He sacrificed. He died to himself in order to be there for his wife, the bride, the church. And so husbands are called to do the same. In all these ways, the Lord gives us a special grace in our family to grow in holiness. by being humbled and by being obedient. So we pray for that grace to be able to love one another and receive the love of God through our family.